Hi, everyone. So the theme was what goes around, so I thought I would tell you about walk-around gigs. Has anybody heard of walk-around before? All right. So if any of you have been to the Renaissance Fair, and you've seen, there's people with jugglers and people with the funnel cakes, like they all have a job, and then every now and then you see a peasant who's just kind of like, that's walk around. So burlesque performers are hired to do ambient sort of atmosphere performance. We get paid to walk around at rich people's parties. Seriously. So if you're like doing a Great Gatsby kind of thing, you're going to need some Charleston girls. Or, if you're doing a Versailles thing, you're going to need girls blushing behind their fans. That's where we come in. We don't shop on Amazon, you know what I mean? We bring the good costuming. So one day I got a call from a producer for a walk-around gig, and she said, so yeah, the theme for the evening is the 7 deadly sins. And we were hoping that you would portray, and I could tell that she was uncomfortable, but I held the silence. I really wanted her to say it. Gluttony. No offense. It's nothing personal. It's a very cool thing to say. And I asked how much the gig paid, and then I said yes. Because the week before, I had been speaking to my mentor, Rosewood, a shock artist whose tagline is the mother of all motherfuckers. And when I told her, I was like, there's whatever, like, walk around, like, sometimes it's a little degrading or whatever. She was like, how great to be degraded, how wonderful. And she said something to me that really changed my life. She's like, not everybody gets to be a pretty princess. Some people really need their monsters. And so in that moment, that was my opportunity, right, to be a monster, to portray gluttony. So I said yes, headed to the gig. It was very like, if you've ever been to the sort of Pandora area of Disney, sort of like greenery and lighting and bioluminescence, and everything was very expensive looking. And for the first half of the evening, the producer had me set up on the bar as people were filtering in. And I got a silver platter with stacks and stacks of grapes, and it was my job to feed people as they were waiting for their craft cocktails. And that was great. That was like easy. People started coming in. Everybody was like very rich, very expensive, well-heeled in a way that sort of replaces humanity or joy, like just a sort of a nice, rich and miserable kind of crowd. And I got to play with them. I was like, hi, while you're waiting for your gimlet, do you want a little fruit snack? That kind of shit. And I was wearing a gold fringe skirt. And when I say skirt, I mean it was just fringe. There was no fabric. And pasties, and in my hair, I had a bunch of rhinestone fruit. So there was very like Dionysian kind of excess. And people were eating the grapes, which was fantastic. And some people were like, "Oh, hey, can I take a picture of you for Snapchat?" And we were playing. A guy handed me his vape, and I was like taking these big vape puffs, while he was like, "Hey, tell me, what's it like to be hot for a living?" And I blew a giant puff of smoke or vapor, I guess, in his face, and I was like, it's boring. Why don't you buy me a drink? I don't drink. I just needed I was like, I don't know, give him something to do. He needs a job. But I felt so powerful as this goddess up on the bar, and my grapes were disappearing, and I was like, I'm good, they're eating the grapes, this is great. And then the producer grabbed me for the second half of the evening, so we did a switchover. First half of the party, this sort of lush, like garden kind of situation. And the second half was more like the outcome of sin. And at that point, I don't know if you've been to a rich people party. No matter how they start, and like no matter what the vibe is at the beginning, like it could be like finger sandwiches, and at the end it's like Fall of Rome orgy kind of thing. The party had really started to take that turn, and I was like, oh, I'm just noticing that there's like 3 or 4 people going into the bathroom but with each other, and they're not closing the door, and I don't know what they're doing. And then I was like, oh, that man is just really smelling his iPhone. I wonder what that's about. And I was like, cocaine, it's cocaine. That's why he's snorting cocaine. And so things are starting to devolve, and that's right the time where the producer decides that it's the second half, like we're turning over. So the performers are no longer playing quite as nice. And our lookbook, our style guide for the second half of the evening was Hieronymus Bosch's painting The Garden of Earthly Delights. Don't know if you've seen that one, but it's a little light on the wardrobe. It's mostly just like nude sinners being, poked with pitchforks by like half man, half bird. I was like, I don't really understand. Like, I don't have pants that go with this, So my costume was I didn't bring a costume. I was like naked, like, this is the costume I come with. And I rethought that at the last minute because I was like, that feels a little too naked for me, even for me. So I borrowed some rope from a friend and I tied a body harness. And I was like, chic, accessory, black, New York. And my producer came back to visit me and to hand me my prop for the second half of the evening. And it was this massive, shuddering, glossy Boston cream cake. And my job was to walk around at the party and to see if I could feed people. So I stepped out from the backstage and I suddenly realized, I recognized this moment from my adolescent nightmares. I was like, I am the only naked person at this party. And on the floor, I am 5'1". I'm barefoot. There's something sticky on me. I don't know what it is. I'm not asking questions. And I'm like, I was at bird's eye view, goddess, whatever, and I'm at cockroach view now. I can see everything. I can smell everyone. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want my pussy to make a snail trail on somebody's Paul Smith suit. Whatever, I'm juicy. It's okay. And I'm kind of panicking because I'm realizing that people are not making eye contact with me. I was able to get rid of grapes like hotcakes, but now with a cake, suddenly I was being treated differently. And to give you a sense of the performances, so there was somebody who was walking around and covering people with like little drips of lighter fluid and having them go up in flames with a little torch. And there was somebody dressed in a pig mask, admiring herself in the mirror. My friend Zoe was walking around with her snake Fantasia, who has an inner ear thing, so always lists to one side, sweet Fantasia. And then there's me, and I was like, oh, can I interest you in some cake? Oh, some dirty, dirty cake. And these cokeheads who are fingering each other, who are probably committing tax evasion at the party, are like, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm on keto. It's like, we're really trying not to do gluten this season, It's just like, oh yeah, I'm drinking my calories tonight. Whatever the thing is, I cannot get anybody to eat this goddamn cake, and it's killing me. I'm doing a bad job, which is just, it's just compounding the shame. I'm like, really? In a sin-themed party, this is where you all are drawing the line? Okay, fine, fuck it. So I give up with my tactic. It's not working. And I go upstairs to the main hall where I find a black leather chaise, and I sit down on it. And very deliberately, my finger makes a parabola and penetrates the cake. And I pull my fingers out, all frosting and crumbs, and I bring it to my lips, and I start to eat. And gluttony decides that this is the most wonderful thing she's ever eaten. And so I'm exaggerating it. I'm playing with my hair. I'm rubbing my hands down my thighs. I've never eaten anything so deliciously sinful. And I see the little lantern light of people's eye contact as they start to turn and watch me. And so I'm staring back at them as I eat, like unafraid to look away, holding their gaze. And before I know it, there is a line forming. And there is a man who had been standing, who is now on his knees crawling toward me. And he asks, "Can I feed you?" And I say, "You may." And so he dips his fingers into the cake and puts them into my mouth. And I hold his wrist and suck on his fingers, clean them, and I say, thank you. Behind him, there's another man who, is sort of following the etiquette of the moment, is also on his knees crawling toward me. And he swipes some cake on my clavicle and starts to lick it off, and I'm moaning. But in my head, I'm like, I really hope my body glitter is non-toxic, because he's eating so much of it. And I'm wrestling between this moment that feels so present and visceral, because people are eating through me. These people who have decided that the dirtiest, nastiest thing they could ever do is let this cake pass their lips, but they're getting turned on watching me eat. And so it's a transubstantiation. I can't tell if they want to feed me or be me, if they want to fuck me, what it is that they want to stuff my mouth with. It is this extremely heady experience. And then there's me in all of this being like, oh, this is weird. Trying to hold the moment, trying to give these people this transformation, trying to consecrate their sin, to let them know that this thing that is so dirty that they have not allowed themselves. I mean, it's a rich people party. You don't see fat people at rich people parties, you know what I mean? I was like, I will do this. I will put this into my body for you so that you know it's okay. And then I was like, I've eaten a lot of cake. I'm getting a little overwhelmed. And I see my producer and I'm like, oh, it's my time? Oh, I'm done? Excuse me. And I stand to go to head back to the backstage. And people are like, no, wait, stop. We want to feed you. Come back. We haven't gotten a chance. We want to feed you cake. Stressed out, run to the backstage. And I transform back into my street clothes. I have done my job. My check is going to clear. And I had this moment of deep pity for these people who had to pay for the party that I got paid to go to, who wouldn't permit themselves the thing that I was easily allowed to put into myself. So I realized that, as wonderful, as fun as it is to become a monster, sometimes it's truly a gift to feed one. Thank you.